Hello and welcome to this month's OneDrive office hours, where we get to meet and learn from our experts, ensuring you make the most out of your OneDrive experience. So whether you're a beginner or a power user, these sessions are designed to help you navigate and utilize OneDrive's features most effectively and efficiently, and also prepare for what's coming soon inside of OneDrive. And I'm losing my voice, so bear with me as I go through the slides. A brief note on our company mission, as well as our reminder to uphold our digital code of conduct. We aim to create a respectful and inclusive experience for all our participants. And I'll cover some important updates in terms of our agenda for today. I'll go over some exciting updates we have for our roadmap. And then I'll transition over to our guest speaker for the month, Gaia, for a special topic, which is all things latest and greatest inside of Sync app. And then we'll transition over to our regular Q&A. All right. So for our roadmap updates, we have a number of exciting updates that I want to cover, starting with the leftmost bucket here that you see on the chart. First, that is our shipped feature column. So offline mode is fully deployed in production. We are super excited about that. I know this has been a feature that we had a slow roll. A lot of our customers, like yourself, have expressed a lot of interest. So we're super excited with this announcement. If you are not aware, offline mode allows you to access and edit your files without internet connection. It automatically syncs your changes, keeping your files all up to date and accessible once you regain connectivity. But then also, like, from browsing and large libraries and to filtering documents, everything is faster, smoother, and even more responsive, even when you're connected to the internet. So it's not just about, when you're not connected, it's also when you're connected, it has tremendous benefits in terms of speed and efficiency. So we're super excited about that. Please give us feedback and learnings from there so we can help improve this feature even further. One other important update that you see in terms of our shipped bucket is the OneDrive web improved search result or refresh that we did. It's also 100% deployed in production. And with these new filters, you get more detailed results. You can find the exact file or a folder that you're looking for, whether it's stored in OneDrive, a shared library, or a folder from a teammate. You get extended controls around date ranges, etc., with this expanded, improved search capabilities within OneDrive Web. So looking forward to that feedback from you all on that. And then, colored folders inside of File Explorer is also 100% rolled out. I know this has been something that a lot of our customers have mentioned and talked about. Back last year when we announced colored folders inside of OneDrive Web, the most important feedback we got was, when are we going to get this in File Explorer? So we're super excited about having this available to you inside of File Explorer. This feature allows users like yourself to view and manage folder colors directly inside of File Explorer, as I mentioned, and we're super excited to have that available to you. The other feature that is not as fancy, but super effective, especially given what we've heard over the last several months from this audience, is around delete confirmation for shared content. This has been something that a lot of our customers have had challenges with in terms of support tickets that get opened because of accidental deletes. So with this delete confirmation for shared content, we believe this is going to help immensely in terms of preventing something like that happening. Please give us feedback on how we can improve that further. A couple of other ones that I want to highlight in terms of ship, and we have a ton that we shipped over the last month and updates on those. So recurring meetings in meetings view, this is another one on OneDrive Web.
Sure.
If you could please
mute. And then where's the water that you changed?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So recurring meetings in meetings view, this is another capability inside of OneDrive Web. That just doesn't give you all the previous meetings and the meetings that you have in the future, but also things that are recurring in nature. So you can all view them. You can look at all the files that are shared with you inside of those meetings. So please give us feedback on that as well. Last but not least,
Please
I will.
don't go to my bedroom when I'm about to sleep. It's very hard for me to fall asleep.
There we go. All right. Last but not least, in terms of our updates for Shipped, Bucket OneDrive support is now available for remote app in Azure Virtual Desktop. Previously, OneDrive could only be used on Azure Virtual Desktop with non-persistent desktop and was not supported on remote app. With this new support, you can now use OneDrive alongside the remote app in Azure Virtual Desktop. So it allows you to access and synchronize their files while using a remote app. So super excited about that as well. I know this was also a long time coming. We're super excited to have this finally 100% rolled out. As you look at in terms of what's coming in the next 3 months or the next 6 months, you see on the rightmost bucket in terms of a ton of investments in Copilot and how we can make your experience inside of Copilot, inside of OneDrive Web, super efficient, super nifty with Copilot capabilities. We will have the catch-up capability that I believe Arjuna talked about in other media sessions, where you can come back to OneDrive Web and catch up on all the latest and greatest that are happening inside of your files, so you can prioritize your work, and also capabilities like creating Word and PowerPoint documents out of Copilot responses. Also looking forward to that. Please, if you have any questions on any of that, we'll look at the chat. But super excited and to announce this, and stay tuned on any further updates on the roadmap. With that, I'm going to transition over to Gaia, who will cover our deep dive topic for this month, which is, again, OneDrive Sync and Sync app updates. Over to you, Gaia.
Awesome. Thanks, Irfan. And hi, everyone. Really happy to be here and see you all. Carter on my team, who many of you might know, was going to present, but as I was mentioning at the beginning, a lot of people have their power out, and so you get me instead. But yeah, let's dive in. We have a packed agenda of awesome new things that have shipped or are coming to Windows and Mac. So we've gotten a lot of feedback, both from all of you as well as other customers across both platforms. And so, yeah, excited to share some of the latest updates that have either recently rolled out to prod, as Irfan was mentioning, or are in the insider's ring and are going to be rolling out soon. On Mac, we'll talk about support for invalid characters, which I know has been probably the biggest pain point for a lot of our Mac customers, as well as just amplifying the signal when OneDrive isn't running on the machine. And then we'll talk about a bunch of new capabilities on Windows, as well as better integration within File Explorer. But before I explain all the features, let me show you some demos. And so we'll start out with Mac OS. I'm going to play this video, and show me a thumbs up if once I click play, it starts playing for everyone. Okay, I see at least Irfan has a thumbs up. Okay, lots of thumbs ups, great. So here I have a file in Finder, and I'm going to start adding some characters that are supported on Mac OS, but not on Windows or other platforms. So for example, here, I'm going to add a question mark. I'm going to add a few quotes. And previously, if you're familiar with OneDrive on Mac, you would have seen an error and a prompt to rename it. Now, instead, the rename actually went through, and if you open Activity Center, you can see that file actually renamed properly to the cloud. And I'll show later how that actually surfaces on other platforms, because we encode the file name because it's not supported on other OS platforms. But on Mac, it looks the same, it uploads, and yeah, we think that's a big improvement. Now, going to the settings on Mac OS, there is a OS setting that controls whether the app starts at login. So here you can see I'm disabling that setting just for the demo. And now if you go to the OneDrive preferences on Mac, you'll see that instead of having our own setting, we reflect the OS one, and we give the users an easy way to open settings, which will take them to the Mac native settings where that we just edited and turned that off. So it's super easy to find that and re-enable. So we're going to go ahead and re-enable that because we want to make sure everyone has that on. And now if we open the preferences dialog again, you'll see that that's reflected and that error is no longer there. And then finally, we're going to quit OneDrive. And we know this is a critical scenario because if OneDrive isn't running, files aren't protected, people don't have the latest changes from the cloud. And you can see now we've added this banner within Finder to let you know, the user know that OneDrive isn't running and they should start it again in order to make sure files are backed up and they have the latest changes from the cloud. And now when we start OneDrive, once it's done signing in, that banner will disappear. Okay, so we're done signing in, open Finder, and as you can see, the banner is gone. So that's the demo on Mac. Now let's switch over to Windows 10, which I know several of you are using in your organization. So here I have File Explorer running on Win 10. And first you can see the, oh, sorry, I'm hearing some.
Wait, can you hear him?
Yeah, if there's a question, we'll hold questions to the end of the presentation. Back to the demo, here I am in File Explorer. As you can see, those files that I uploaded from Mac are there, and it just encoded in a way that works on Windows. And then also, if you go to this new Cloud Storage tab in the ribbon, you can see you can open OneDrive settings. You can see all the files are up to date. And if there was an error, you would actually see it right in line. And there would be a little text that says there's an error. So this is kind of the equivalent of our flyout, but on Windows 10. You can also see colored folders showing up here that's supported across Win 10 and 11. And then here I'm selecting a shared file that I'm going to delete. And as you can see, you immediately get this delete shared item dialog that asks you to confirm whether you want to delete it for everyone or keep the item. And if you select keep the item, then that file is immediately back. And the goal is to prevent accidental deletes of shared content, which we know has been a pain point. And then the last demo I have here is on Windows 11. Here we're in File Explorer Home. And first you can see both within Recents and Favorites and the other tabs, there's a new set of file types that show up, like Forms, like Whiteboard, like Loops. All of those now show up there. And then finally, there's this new Share tab that shows all of the files that were recently that were shared with you. If I click on a file and I open the details pane, I can see activity about that file. Just like here, you can see that it was edited and it was shared with me. So yeah, just bringing more of the great innovation from OneDrive Web to our File Explorer users. And that's all the demos I had. But let's do a quick recap before we go into questions on all of everything we showed. So first, related to invalid file and folder name support on macOS, I showed you that we now support syncing all of the characters that we talked about that are not supported on Windows. Those get uploaded to the cloud and are encoded in a way that allows them to also sync to Windows. And no user interaction is required. We also shipped a change to automatically remove trailing spaces from file names so that users don't have to change that manually. And then as we talked about, those file names, if they have those unsupported characters, they'll show up in a way that's encoded on OneDrive Web and in File Explorer. I also showed you how we are better integrating with the native capabilities around the setting to open OneDrive when you log in, and how that shows a warning if that setting is disabled and an easy way for the user to open the settings to the right place. And then also if OneDrive isn't running, we'll show a new banner in Finder to let them know to start their OneDrive. And then in terms of on Windows, I showed you the new sync status and quota and, all the different ways to get to, settings and all of that recycle bin on Windows 10. And as you can see in the second screenshot, if there's an error, the user will also see a little error banner at the top of the ribbon. And then if they click in, they'll see that there's one sync error, and clicking that will open the Activity Center. We also allow users to personalize and view folder colors both on Win 10 and 11. And then when users delete shared content, they'll be informed that if they want to delete it for everyone or they want to keep the item so that it's not deleted for other people. And then finally, in File Explorer on Windows 11, showed you a broader set of file types like loop files and Power BI, etc., showing up in the File Explorer home view. And then also an easy way to access shared content straight from File Explorer. Again, bringing more of the functionality we have on OneDrive Web to our File Explorer users. And that's all I had. So I'd love any questions from the audience on either anything I showed or any other topics. Steve, go ahead.
So great, Gaia. So great. I love all that stuff, especially Mac OS. Since
That's
I
great to
have
hear.
in my reporting, I know I have folks that, have lots of invalid characters. So it's good to hear that it's going to be, they don't have to do anything, right? That's great.
Yep.
Question is, when is this going to roll out to them so I know?
Yeah, so it's currently in Insiders, and you'll see
Okay.
it now in the release notes that were just published, I believe, this morning or yesterday.
Okay.
And that's going to be rolling out with the next build that goes to production.
Awesome. Irfan,
very
if you have
soon.
those release notes, or Gaia, that would be great to have. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me paste the link in the chat. Awesome. Other questions? I see there's a question about trailing spaces and whether that's file names only or also folders. That's a good question. I thought it was both, but I think I need to, let me see. Yeah, it's both file and folder names. It's called out in our release notes, and it mentions it's both.
Awesome.
Will Windows ever display the characters the way the Mac did? No, those are not supported, and that would be a pretty big change on the Windows side, so I don't expect that to come anytime soon. And that's why we wanted to find a creative approach to unblock our Mac users. Of course, if someone doesn't like the encoding, they can go and change the actual file name. We could potentially do additional work to show it with the right kind of characters on web and mobile, but on Windows, it's going to be pretty tricky. Let's see.
Any other questions? You can raise your hand and come on the mic.
Oh, I see a call out about the banner not being as visible. Yeah, that's something that's natively part of Mac OS, but definitely something we can share feedback on. One thing we are looking at, speaking of color, I didn't show it because we haven't implemented it yet, but we are looking at, similar to Teams, for example, that has the red icon or different colors in the icon in the menu bar on Mac. We are looking at showing errors in a way that has red, because we know we've gotten a lot of feedback that it's less visible versus on Windows. And so that's something we're looking at.
You got a couple of hands. So Michael, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Is it Michael or Michael?
Oh, sorry. I think you cannot hear me. You should hear me now, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I have a question to expiration date of the sharing links, because we noticed that it came back today to the environment, and it is very cool feature.
Yep.
And I would like to ask if there is any plans of enabling us to set up a policy for the users to force all the sharing links to expire, let's say, within maximum 3 months or 6 months, as it is set, for example, for the Anyone link right now?
Yeah. Yeah, so I can take that since we don't, I think Guy mentioned we had a power outage in the Pacific Northwest, so a couple of PMs have not been able to join the meeting, but I can speak on the expiration links or expiration date for sharing links. We are actively working on implementing expiration dates for all link types, as you rightly mentioned. What you highlighted is an ability for admin to specify a timeline and then use that as a policy across the board. That's also something we're internally looking at. What we implemented was more at an end user level. So when you create a company specific link or a people specific link, we also specify an expiration date for that. Suffice to say for now that this is top of mind for us, given all the feedback we've heard from this forum on that specific topic. Please stay tuned. When we have more updates, we'll share here. So
okay, that's
definitely
cool.
something we're looking into. Steve, you're next.
So this might be more appropriate for, if there's going to be Q&A outside of Gaia's presentation. So once I start talking, if it's outside, you can pause me and I'll bring it up later. But with the reminders and kind of making sure OneDrive's running on Mac, I've noticed a few times on Windows where we use Intune to kind of make sure folks are signed in and using it, that OneDrive is not signed in and they don't know it because the cloud icon is hidden, right? And they click on it and it says, please sign in. But because we have it all managed by Intune, we thought that was supposed to be all automatic. And again, this could be a support ticket, which it probably will be. But I wanted to mention that in case someone's thinking, oh, there's a checkbox in Intune that you missed or something. Like I ran into it this morning with a customer where she had no idea it wasn't signed in on Windows, and I manually helped her, and then OneDrive took off with all the changes she'd made. So,
yeah, this is definitely a space that we're looking at and want to invest in the coming months. So we have the silent account config group policy, which is also available in Intune to sign in. There is in our documentation some information about some registry keys where if we had tried in the past and it failed, there's some registry keys you have to delete to have it retry again.
Okay.
But overall, two things. One is we want to make sure that happens ideally automatically for users, but also be really clear when OneDrive isn't signed in. And today we're not very loud about that. And so users can easily miss that. And so that's something we were actually discussing yesterday on how to improve that experience. So yes, very top of mind.
Okay. Well, I'll check the registry stuff and make sure we're all set up correctly, at least from our side. And the second thing, and again, pause me if I need to, is I've got some feedback and I've noticed the same where, if you have two machines side by side, right, as in my example, Windows and Mac, I'll make a change on Windows that's synced to OneDrive. It takes a bit for it to pick up that I made that change. And then it takes many minutes for the Mac to realize that change has happened, right? And I'm like, when is the Mac going to realize I made a change and I need to have the updated files? So I know, Gaia, you've talked to in the past about speed of, OneDrive syncing, but, as I'm watching this live and I'm like, when is the Mac going to pick it up?
Yeah, totally. I'd love to actually investigate that, Steve. We've made some bug fixes recently, actually, in that same build that's rolling out soon to production that should help with changes that were in the cloud that were taking long to come down. But I'd love to actually have the team take a look at logs and figure out what's going on in that specific case. Okay.
I know how to do that. I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, you're next.
Yes, thank you. There is also a question in the chat, the same question as I have, the offline mode. Is it, the person is saying that she's not seeing it, or he? So is the rollout completely now done, or?
It should be done as of today.
As of
there
today.
Might be a little, there might be a little bit of a delay. but today, as of today, it should be at 100%. If you're not seeing it, feel free to reach out to me and we can connect you to the right people to take a look.
Okay. Perfect.
There's some conditions that are documented that have to be met in order for it to be enabled. So that's something else to take a look at. Let me find the link and paste it in the chat.
Thank you. And then another thing, if you could scroll back 2 slides.
Yeah. This one?
Yes, this one. So this banner with the one sync error. So what is the difference to the? It's just that it's placed here. The information you would see here is the same that I have now when I click on the in the system tray.
Yeah, it's the same. It's just on Windows 11 we've learned that because with the flyout in File Explorer, it's easier to find for some users, and so we wanted to have something similar within the constraints of Windows 10 File Explorer, so that it's potentially more noticeable for end users.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
I
think, Michael, you're next again. Yeah.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Also to the offline mode, we can see it in our environment. However, we noticed that we can make the folders inside of our OneDrives offline. But if we go to shortcuts, we can make a whole shortcut offline. But if we go inside the shortcut, we cannot make the folders inside of the shortcut offline. And is it something that is how it should work, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, shortcut support is rolling out separately than the initial support for the files in your OneDrive.
Okay.
So now that we've completed the initial rollout, we'll be rolling out the shortcut support.
Oh, that's great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Jan, or?
Jan, this is correct. Thank you so much. I really appreciate these sessions. They're always great to listen into. I also have questions to the offline mode. You're talking about the offline mode from the web app, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also don't see it. So I would be really like to know what kind of limitations they are still in place, or if there's anything you can share from your side. So we can make that broadly available to our people, because it's really a feature they're looking forward to. And if you have anything to share, that would be greatly appreciated.
We'll do that. Yeah, I think as Gaia mentioned, we are I think last night Andre, the PM, mentioned we were 90% done, and we should be done overnight, or maybe by today, 100%. So maybe you're part of the last 10% that it hasn't sort of.
Maybe our Swiss tenant maybe is a little bit behind. I don't know.
Yeah. And also, like I mentioned, there are some conditions. I'm trying to find the documentation. I'll probably have to find it after because I'm not finding it right now, but I'll paste it in the chat.
Yeah, that would be greatly appreciated.
I saw a question earlier in the chat about macOS 12. So we generally follow the same support matrix as Office, which is N-2. And so for macOS 12 and earlier, users would just stay on the version that we support. It'll continue working, but we wouldn't be updating them to the latest version. So they wouldn't get any new features or bug fixes.
Related to all the sync updates, or in general? The comment section, I'm looking through any questions that we might want to take. All right, we got one hand. Are we?
Yes. You were previously on previous calls talking about add shortcut to OneDrive will be the way in the future. What would your suggestion be for new customers coming into Microsoft 365? Should we work with add shortcut to OneDrive instead of sync?
Instead of the sync button, you mean?
Yep.
Yes. Yes, we recommend Add Shortcut for several different reasons. A few of the key ones are it's consistent across all your devices and anywhere you look at OneDrive. So if you get a new machine or something happens to the machine, you don't have to now go find all the different libraries that you were trying to sync. And there's also some performance improvements we've made in the shortcut experience. So definitely that's still recommended. We know we've heard a lot of feedback from a lot of you and other customers on how we can make that experience better. We're working on some improvements right now for scenarios where we have collisions between folders or libraries where you've clicked the sync button versus the shortcut button, because we know that experience was not ideal. And so those are some of the changes we're working on right now. And then we have another set of changes that'll come next year, early next year, just to address some of the other feedback. Once we've improved the experience, then we'll think about, okay, what happens with the sync button. But we wanted to make sure we addressed the top feedback from all of you. But our recommendation stays the same, to use that approach.
Yeah, and that's the way that we're doing right now with new customers coming into Microsoft
Awesome.
365, telling them to use Add Shortcut to OneDrive and skip the sync button.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Mm-hmm. And if you're,
you
probably are already aware, but you can actually disable the sync button for the tenant so that they don't get confused.
Yeah, we know that, and we have some customers that have done it for security reasons as well. And there, I know there's also a way to disable the Add Shortcut to OneDrive button as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Tony?
Sure. From the Sync Now button, you have the Sync Now obviously up on the web, but we've been pretty much desperately waiting for a Sync Now button in the Sync client itself. Getting an echo. So maybe you can respond to that.
Okay, that should be better. Can you try again?
Thanks. Yeah, so the sync button, it doesn't exist in the sync client itself. So the scenario is you have multiple devices, you're editing on one machine, and then you're waiting for it to show up on another machine, and there's no sync button. And sometimes you're waiting minutes. We'd rather it be seconds, but obviously you don't want to flood the network. So what would be helpful is a simple sync now button from the desktop perspective, not from the web. Because quite honestly, no one uses the web for editing files. They all use local access, at least in our environment. So that's kind of the feature we keep wondering when will show up in the client.
And I think you've mentioned this one in the past. I was wondering, the sync, I guess one way I've heard about a sync now button is more about if you have, let's say you edited a file locally and then you have a bunch of other files that are, need to upload, but you really want that one file to make sure it gets to the cloud right now. Is that the scenario you're referring to, or a different one?
It's really just getting it from one machine to another. It passively will get there eventually, right? Because each client just pulls the network and says, is there any updates? And eventually you'll get the little indicator in the file manager to go ahead and open the file. But if it's not there, you can't open it. So you go to the sync client, all you find is a pause button. You don't find an option to say sync now. So you pause it, which signs you out. Great. Now what you have to do is go through a whole sign-in process, which is painful, to get the thing to start again. Then it synchronizes. So what we're looking for is a way to simply say, I know you're going to pull in the next 5 minutes. Can you just do that now?
Yeah.
That's basically
it. Actually, in terms of pulling, the way the sync client works is actually we rely on the Windows notification service, WNS, and that sends us a notification pretty immediately about a change in the cloud. And we still have polling that happens as a backup, but if we can't connect to WNS because of network settings, that's when we revert to polling every few minutes. And so if you're seeing that behavior, it's not expected. And so first, I would recommend making sure that the traffic to the wildcard domain for WNS is enabled, because we've seen that impact customers. if that is enabled and you can, then I would recommend reaching out, because we'd want to take a look at what's causing that delay, because that's not expected in terms of delays coming of like a file being edited and coming to the machine.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and I'll paste in the sync ideal state documentation has the reference to WNS, which I was referring to. That's applicable both for Windows and Mac. So yeah, we use Windows Notification Service also on Mac, and it's super critical that the the traffic is allowed for that wildcard domain wns.windows.com.
Yeah, we have it enabled, but it doesn't really help matters.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to, if you want to reach out with some examples of the delay, I'd love for the team to take a look.
Thank you. Guillermo, please go ahead.
Yeah, that was an interesting discussion. I see a lot of users complaining about synchronization issues and their changes not being synchronized on a timely basis. And when we go and help them, we generally notice that they have some alerts in the OneDrive Sync Manager on their taskbar. So that's really interesting to have the option to prioritize the synchronization of the current file or a particular file over sometimes hundreds or thousands of files that are synchronizing at the same time.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's an interesting feature for us to consider. But in terms of the synchronization issues, I would encourage you to make sure to open a support ticket, and then if you're not getting traction for some reason, feel free to reach out, because I'd love to understand what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mohammed, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Maybe this question was already asked. If so, my bad. But currently, we are having a lot of issues with synchronization issues within our environment. We have an environment. It's a hybrid environment, so we are using a Citrix environment as well with FS Logic profiles. And my question is, what is the recommendation from Microsoft regarding the sync options, sync or shortcut to OneDrive? What are the recommendations, and what are the things that we have to look at to minimize synchronization issues we are having at the moment?
Yeah, in terms of the sync button versus add to OneDrive, our recommendation is to use add shortcut to OneDrive for the reasons I mentioned earlier. In terms of synchronization issues, that can be a lot of different things. So again, if you're open to sharing some more information with me offline, love to better understand what types of issues you're seeing, so we can figure out what might be going on.
Yeah, I would love to, because currently we are having a lot of issues with that. So maybe it's a good idea to indeed talk this through offline. So I will reach out to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in general, I just pasted the sync idle state sort of steps that Gaia was referring to earlier in this chat. There are a few things that we all should be aware of when we talk to our customers. Sometimes there are a few things that our customers might not be aware of or have not read. So we encourage everybody to go through this as part of best practices and ensure that they've gone through this, at least are aware of it in terms of what we need to do to make sure that the sync health is, or sync is in a healthy state within the environment. So please take a look and let us know if you have any questions. Kevin, you're next.
Very good. Thank you. I guess I could probably ask Copilot on this one, but I thought I'd ask a real human. Can you give me a high-level direction of where you disabled the sync button in the OneDrive and SharePoint and things?
Yeah, there's a commandlet which I need to. Let me try to find it.
It's a what?
It's a PowerShell commandlet.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And it disables it for the tenant. Let me try to find it as we speak, and I'll paste it in the chat.
Is it disabling it, or is it just hiding the option? Because I've read.
Oh yeah, it's hiding the option.
Hides the option. Okay. PowerShell commandlet to hide.
I found it. Oh wait.
Oh wow.
You beat me to it.
What'd you do? Did you ask Copilot?
Yeah, it looks like Martina found it before me, but I'll just paste the article.
Look at
as
that.
well.
Hide sync button on Teams. All right. Thank you.
Is there a way? Because I'm sorry I'm interrupting this part, but
that's okay.
Because when you what this commandlet does, as far as I know, is it just hides it, but it doesn't do anything with synchronizations that happened before you turned it or before you hid the option, right?
Yes, that's right. This is just to prevent new sync button relationships from being created. As I mentioned, right now we're investing in better handling when you have both a shortcut and you have the sync relationship and you click the shortcut button and vice versa, and some other improvements to the shortcut functionality. And then eventually we'll provide a better way for people to transition over. But yeah, this is just about new relationships. That's right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
There's a note around offline mode and support for more than 250,000 files. I know this is something that we have listed as a limitation, but I know that's Andre and our team is working on that.
Yeah, we're working on raising that both for offline mode and for the sync client. So yes, we'll continue to keep that page up to date as we change some of those conditions. We're actively working on what we call attach, meaning we're trying to drive more sessions of OneDrive Web to be connected to offline mode and be powered by the client that supports it. So yes.
Thank you, Gaia. Mohammed, you're next.
One more question regarding the offline modus. Is there something we have to do, or in general you have to do, to make sure that that option is visible for your end users? Because as I read something about that, it's a per device policy, so you have to do something per device for it in order to see it visible. Or is
no, it's on by default. I think the policy is just if you wanted to disable it. So in the OneDrive web experience, users would, if it's enabled, you'll be able to see the command to mark something offline. And then, so for example, if you go to My Files and you click on, let's say, a file that you need, it will have the option to keep it offline.
Okay, yeah.
So there's nothing you have to do other than the condition. Other than, as we mentioned, it's finishing the rollout today, and also there's some conditions that need to be met.
All right. And any other? Is there an information site or anything which I can read into those? Minimal requirements as you mentioned for this to work, or?
I just pasted a article a little bit earlier. Where was it? Let me just respond to it.
Okay.
So you should see it in the chat.
Thank you. That was it for me.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes. If there are any questions that you want to take online here versus in the chat, please feel free to do so. Please raise your hand. Thomas, go ahead. Oops, maybe that was a mistake. Hans?
I want to confirm that the question was about offline folders and with shortcut folders, offline mobility. You can have it only once, being in the root where you have it. And if you are inside and have some folders, you cannot disable or enable it. That I've seen not just right now.
Sorry, Hans, can you say that again? If you're in a shortcut folder?
If you have a shortcut folder, you can have it and say, okay, I want to have it offline. But if you are inside the thing, not have it done, only inside the folders, one or more, you do not have the functionality to inside a folder and make it offline.
Got it.
All or nothing.
Yeah, I know we're working on rolling out the capabilities for add to OneDrive shortcuts, but let me follow up specifically on that distinction of like within the in and out of the folder to make sure that's also part of the rollout.
Thank you, Hans. Joshua, I was wondering where you were.
Yeah, I unfortunately had a meeting at the same time. So my question is, we'd love to have transcripts of audio files when we upload them to OneDrive. So we get that with videos today, but don't have that with audio files. Love to see that as part of audio as well.
So is it part of like OneDrive, inside of OneDrive Web, you want to have audio transcript of the...
Yeah. So if I take a video and I drop it in OneDrive, I have the ability to set up a transcript that gets generated. Love that for audio files as well.
That's good. That's good feedback. We'll pass it along. Thank you so much.
And Tony, I'll try your suggestion as a short-term mitigation.
Yeah, keep in mind that there's some sort of file upload limit to that feature in Word that we've run into because it's by account. You're limited by number of minutes per user that's allowed to use that in Word for some reason. So, but it is a separate feature entirely from Stream currently, and I agree it should all be one service and unlimited.
Yeah, and the hack is great, but we need it to be easier and simpler to use. Otherwise, people are just going to purchase another service, which we're trying to avoid.
Yep.
Jan, go ahead, please.
Yep. So if we're already in the wishing section now, one thing which we run in just recently was that I'm not sure if it's really a OneDrive web app limitation or if it's a new Outlook limitation, is that certain people want to like save email files, and instead of like you can drag them to your desktop and then upload them to your OneDrive for the web, but you cannot drag them directly from Outlook, from the new Outlook into the OneDrive for the web. So I'm not sure if that limitation is, but that's definitely something people are looking for to just save certain conversations from customers.
Interesting. That's definitely good feedback. We don't have some of our web PMs on.
I'm here from the web team, but unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for that. I would just say that's really great feedback, and I would expect that to work the same. So we'll follow up on that. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Liz.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Feedback. All right, we got like maybe 8 minutes left. Joshua, go ahead, please.
If I upload a file to OneDrive, am I able to get a summary produced into like a attribute field? So I could add like a column called summary, and when I upload the file, it would generate that summary using AI or Copilot.
I'm not aware of the ability to put it as a column, but that's an interesting idea that we should share with the team.
Yeah,
Can you share more?
Okay.
Sure. We were asked recently to take some training sessions that were available as part of our training, and then just put them on a SharePoint or OneDrive, well, SharePoint in this case, when it's done so people could refer back to it. And it'd be awesome if we could auto-generate sort of that summary and, purpose versus having to, either type it in or separately do that. So just dropping a file in would do that.
Yeah, it's great feedback. Do you currently use summaries in Copilot in OneDrive?
We only have a couple of users right now who have Copilot, so I haven't tried that out yet.
Yeah, I would love. I mean, if you get a chance, like try Copilot summaries in OneDrive. It really is one click. You just hover over a file, you will see the Copilot button, and just one click, and you will be able to summarize any file. But a great featured idea for us to like add a column and add this as an attribute.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for automations where I don't have to click. So if I upload, let's say, 50 interviews from someone or 50 transcripts, it can give that summary quickly.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we got maybe a couple of more hands. Let me just go see. Mohammed, go ahead. You're on a roll.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's my first time, but I'm enjoying this session, so my bad. But I wanted to. Jan pointed out something regarding Outlook and dragging a file to your desktop, etc. But if I look at my environment, that is something that it's possible for me to do. So, for example, I can drag an email or drag or download or for example a file that's in the email. I can download it and save it on my desktop. So I didn't do anything for that, but I know that from other clients I worked for, that option was disabled. So you only had the option to save it at your OneDrive, like Jan said. So I don't know what that difference is and how that difference is. So that's the only thing I wanted to add it. If that makes sense. So
it doesn't work only on the new Outlook for now. That's what we've noticed. So it depends what client you're using on your tenant.
Yeah, I'm using the new Outlook client.
Yeah, with the new Outlook client, you're able to download it or you drag it to your desktop and it's saved, but you cannot drag it directly into OneDrive for the web. That's the limitation we ran into right now. And there are people like, yeah, in the old Outlook it works, but in the new Outlook it doesn't. And I don't understand where the capabilities are from. Like, for me, if you drag it to the desktop or drag it to another window, it should work the same way. I don't know.
All right, okay. I need to try that out. Thank you.
Yep, it's good feedback. Oliver?
Hi. Yeah, one question. I'm not sure if someone can really answer this here. I'm asking from time to time about the photo features that should be coming to the personal version of OneDrive. If there are any updates, at least I haven't heard people talking about those features that they're hitting. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's good feedback in terms of you're looking especially for timelines around some of the announcements. Is that correct?
Yeah, timelines would be good when we can, when probably we can get our hands on this, like face detection and also the new stuff that you showed this autumn with the new search, etc.
The new search should be 100% deployed. The search refresh, if you're talking about for OneDrive for work and school, you'll be able to have the expanded search with, specifying date ranges, etc. for specific file types. All that should be 100% deployed, and you should see this in your environment. Specifically on OneDrive for photos, updates for your consumer or accounts. I will share some of the updates and timelines in the chat. Let me just pull it up and I'll share that with you here.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. We got Peter next.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the relationship between OneDrive, the sync app, with source code files. I know that it is something that doesn't happen for normal users, but developers, programmers sometimes can insist on having source code files that that are being touched by other programs and put in the OneDrive sync app. And that normally gives some difficulties to the sync app normally. My question is, what is your comment on that? Or is there anything previewed that allows OneDrive to better handle source code files that some users or power users insist to put into the OneDrive sync app, although it is not that normal to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Generally we don't recommend putting like a repository of source code in OneDrive because the source code management itself would manage it. I'm curious if in the scenarios you're mentioning, if this is applications like Visual Studio writing to the documents folder and that being why they're there, or the
Visual Studio or any type of programming language that might contain source code.
Yeah.
We have been
specifically in the documents folder because the app saves information there.
Exactly. We have been seeing this not frequently, but from time to time, or every once in a year. Also, having one case or another, some power users insisting on really having that on. Although we always recommend don't have it under OneDrive. Use GitHub, use any other repository as a storage for your source code. But I would like to. What is your view on that? Should we really?
Yes. Our recommendation is not to put it there, and we don't have anything planned. We are taking a look at the folder backup experience to see if what gaps we want to address. And one of the pain points we have heard is around apps saving to the documents folder. So we don't really have a solution right now, but we know that's a pain point, not just specific to source code, but in general. And so that's something we're starting to think about. But for source code specifically, we don't recommend putting it in OneDrive.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Possible. Yeah.
Great.
We're at time, but maybe we'll take one more, Thomas. And Chase, if you could just paste your question in the chat, that'll be super helpful. Thomas, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, cool. A couple of weeks ago, it was possible to ask Copilot the question to a picture, an image within the OneDrive. That option has disappeared now. So will that option come back? Because we are really missing that. We're using that for accounting, received, and stuff like that. But right now, we are not able to ask questions to images in the OneDrive.
Arjun, do you want to take that?
I think your wish is going to be granted really soon, is all I can say. We are actually actively working on that feature, image Q&A with Copilot support. It's actually in its last stages. I actually expect it to start rolling out, fingers crossed, before this year ends, but don't shoot me if it slips a little, but definitely by Jan, you will have that feature.
Okay, thank you, because it was there and now it's gone, and we really hope it comes back.
We're working really hard to. There was some feedback that we got when we were testing it, and then we're just making some certain improvements. But it's back on the backlog, actively working on it. Should be live pretty soon.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a good session. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. We're at time, so we'll wrap up for this month. Again, thank you so much for all of your feedback. We hope that these sessions are helpful to you. These are super helpful for our product team in making sure that we hear all the good feedback from all of you and make sure that we make the improvements that you're looking for in the product. Just a quick note before we wrap up, the chat that we use has been from before. There was one of our old marketing managers, Paul Diamond, had set up some meetings. So I think you're seeing some of the remnants there. You will always have to sign up using aka.ms/OneDrive office hours, register for it, and then get an invite to join these sessions. So please make sure for next time as well. There won't be email that we send up. It's hard to manage thousands of users from this time. We want to keep it as personal as we can. So I appreciate all the support you have. Give us feedback in terms of any other specific topics that you would like to hear from us, from our experts. Again, really appreciate it. For all the folks who are in the US, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.